Hey guys, this is going to be a different kind of video. It's going to be very raw and candid. Basically, me sharing all of my experiences, struggles, ups and downs of running a sick-ass computer store that I opened up 2 years ago. It's always been my goal to share my experience, be super transparent and real, so that anyone who has a similar vision, who might want to open up their own small business, can kind of have some perspective on what that's actually like in the raw. So check out this original video for context from when I was first thinking of opening my store, and then we'll take it from there. For the past 2 years, I have been selling hundreds of computers and sick custom PCs like this one here out of my bedroom. I decided to make the commitment to sell my family home and use all the proceeds into getting a physical store location. I'm going to document the whole process starting right now and try to be personal and candid about my whole experience being somebody who started a small business out of their home. And I'm so excited for you to bear witness, to come along to see what this awesome little bedroom operation is going to turn into in the future. The journey has been wild, to say the least. If I had to describe it in 3 words, I would pick fulfillment, adventure, and burnout. From the start, I've wanted to document the journey and be as transparent as possible with anybody who may be curious what it's like or have ambitions of opening a business of their own. I don't have a business degree and I don't have a course to sell you. This video is strictly intended to share my personal experiences with you. I find there's a lack of transparency when it comes to people discussing topics like this. It's taboo for people to discuss their income and their struggles. My goal is to share as best I can what it's really like to embark on an entrepreneurial journey, or at least what it's been like for me on my journey. I'm going to break the video up into 4 chunks. Part 1 is going to be all about my story so far and how I ended up here. In part 2, I'm going to share my business's sales and cover the financial aspect of the endeavor. In part 3, I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction and discuss what it's been like from an emotional and human perspective. Lastly, in part 4, I'm going to talk about my hopes for the future and where I'd like to take the business from here. Part 1, the story so far and how I got here. I can remember back in grade 11 sitting down with my family and telling them that I want to drop out of school. I understood that school is important for finding employment, but I felt passionately that the only way I could be happy was to be my own boss and to run my own business. There's a cultural push to keep people on the path of employment. Everybody around me, family and school staff especially, was well-intentioned when they told me, stay in school. You're too smart to quit. You're guaranteed to make good money if you go to college, is often the type of thing that I heard. The logical thing to do when the world is telling you one thing contrary to what you think is to have some humility and assume that you could be wrong. I listened, finished high school, and went to college to be a paramedic. I figured if I had to have a good job, I'd want something that makes a real impact in the world. I did great in school and graduated. But if I'm being honest, I felt that same stress all throughout. That same feeling that made me want to drop out of high school, an unshakable sense that I wasn't on my own path and I'm a prisoner to a life not of my own creation. This entire time I'd been building gaming computers in my spare time and selling them for fun and for income. The feeling of doing this was the opposite of school and traditional jobs. I felt like I was swimming downstream. I had wind in my back. I didn't have to force myself to do it. I could sustain a constant state of flow. Total opposite of how I felt sitting through work, school, and study. Most importantly, I was really good at it. I literally have a script here, if that's what you're wondering. After graduating college, I discovered that a degree is not a guarantee of a job, good paying or not. Despite doing great in school, I couldn't get hired as a medic right out of school and found myself doing all sorts of jobs. Patient transfer, personal trainer, in a grocery store, in a tech store, and a local warehouse. Although I'm thankful for all these opportunities and always put my best foot forward, I never felt I belonged in any of these positions. I forced myself quite literally to show up and to just go through the motions. I don't blame anybody for pushing me in one direction or another. Truth is, they were probably right given the context they had. I've always had the desire and the knack for anything entrepreneurial. I've always had a deep interest in computers, tinkering with them since I was a young kid. I knew the potential I had in me, and how could they possibly know when I'm just a teenager without any accomplishments under my belt? Only I knew what it was like to be inside my mind and to have an understanding of my own ambitions and abilities. It takes time to translate that into the real world. It doesn't mean that it's not there, and it doesn't mean that it's not real. It took me a few years to find the confidence to trust my own judgment more than the opinions of others. And the moment I started leaning into what I felt I naturally ought to do, as opposed to what the world expected me to do, was the moment my life started to change dramatically for the better and in the direction I'd like it to go. That moment came specifically in late 2019 to early 2020, whenever COVID lockdowns happened. At that time, I was working as a personal trainer and at a retail tech store. I just bought myself a house, something that I was very proud of. I saved for the down payment after many months of working 70, 80-hour weeks between the two jobs, and after closing the deal on the house, naturally I was low on savings. Both jobs were deemed unessential, and I was suddenly without income while all the costs of home ownership began to add up. So much for traditional employment being the safe route. During this time, people began receiving COVID bucks, $2,000 emergency cash payments that were super easy to apply for. At the same time, demand for computers skyrocketed as there were supply chain shortages and many people began to work from home. I leaned into this opportunity by treating my PC building side hustle I'd always done as a full-time job. Honestly, I was having a blast. Finally, I felt like I was swimming downstream. The demand was so high for computers that I would have people requesting I put them on a wait list because each computer I built would sell so quickly. At this time, I was mostly just doing cash and e-transfer deals off of Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. Fast forward to 2021, I was legally obligated to register the business in Ontario because I surpassed $30,000 in sales for the first time. That's when I officially began doing business as Alexandria Customs. The name is inspired by West Coast Customs, the garage from Pimp My Ride. I'd been thinking about it for some time before officially launching the business. I opened my own website, got a logo, and for the first 2 years, I turned half my house into a full-blown computer warehouse. I probably averaged 20 to 40-hour weeks building computers while eventually going back to work at the gym, doing patient transfer, and at a local warehouse. I took all of my savings and I used it to renovate my house, which was a real fixer-upper. Financially, I was hanging in there, but not really getting ahead, so to speak. I reinvested every computer sale into purchasing more and more computer inventory without splurging on anything. To be honest with you, I basically hated my life at this stage. My entire existence consisted of waking up early, going to work, eating dinner, building computers, and going to sleep, just to do it over and over again. The only things I looked forward to were seeing my family when I had a spare minute and working on the computers. That everlasting friction I felt anytime I showed up to a job I did not like with a schedule I did not set would not go away. The reason I got a job at the warehouse was because my mortgage renewal was coming up and I couldn't qualify with the self-employment income. I had no choice but to present pay stubs from a traditional employer or I'd risk losing my house. However, when it finally came time to renew, I had an epiphany. Instead of renewing the mortgage and trapping myself in the cycle of endless work, I could sell the house, get rid of the mortgage, and go all in on the computer business. It felt crazy. It felt like being dramatic and careless. It felt like nobody would approve, and I didn't care at all. The satisfaction I got from building a computer, marketing it online, and then closing the sale and owning that process was unlike anything I could ever feel at a job. Each and every day, I felt like I was wasting my life away, working jobs I didn't belong in. I realized a strange phenomenon working for other people. The harder you work, the more they expect from you, and the less they're inclined to reward you. Most people with any authority to offer you any progression within a job see you as a threat and not an asset whenever you show up with your all. And that's the unfortunate truth. Everybody in traditional employment seems to be coasting and showing up with just enough to collect the pay. Perhaps they feel that way because they came to the same realization when they were younger. I had a taste of what it was like to work for yourself, to own the process, and have your own success be only limited by the effort you were willing to put in. I fell completely and utterly in love with entrepreneurship. And the cherry on top, in the worst case scenario, were I to try and fail, I would simply end up back at one of the jobs I'd already had and hated. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain, so I went all in. Many people would sell their house and use the proceeds for a vacation, a nice new car, a fancier lifestyle. I paid off all my debts, rented the shittiest and cheapest apartment I could find, and leased a big-ass store. The location used to be a bank. It's on a busy location in my small town, right in the corner of Main Street. It has multiple vaults, and I got giddy just thinking about opening a store there. I could have rented somewhere more modest, but I wanted a store that would match my ambition. All of my money left over I spent on equipment and inventory to begin my business. Life began to feel more like an adventure than slavery. I'll be honest, I was working harder and felt more stressed than I ever have before, yet every day I woke up and felt the wind in my sails. I just kept going. I was finally living life in my lane and on my own terms. Although initially slow, my store opened up out of nowhere. Business picked up through a mix of online marketing and local word of mouth. I reinvested everything and continued the snowball effect. Each and every month, the sales grew and grew. I bought more inventory, more equipment, more ads, and hired more staff. I just kept going like my life depended on it because it basically did. The 70 to 80 hour work weeks didn't go away, they remained. But for the first time in my life, I was living each and every day on my own terms. Part 2, the finances of my first years in business. Let's take a pause from the more human story side of things and share some hard data with you guys so you can catch a glimpse of what growth over time could look like when starting a business from scratch. Everyone's journey is going to be different, but here's literally exactly what the numbers looked like for me. Let's start by sharing revenue, expenses, and net income since officially registering the business in 2021. 2021 business revenue, $92,572.83. Total business expenses, $100,980.68. Net business income, $8,407.75 loss. I lost money. Accumulated inventory, $21,460 worth of stuff. That's mostly just computers and various parts I had around. The business as a whole cost me $8,407.75 more than I earned. I was barely scraping by using my employment income to stay afloat. This was primarily due to reinvesting every dollar earned and more into the purchase of more equipment and more computer parts to continue to grow sales. 2022 business revenue, $120,837.11. Total business expenses, $117,177.35. Net business income, $3,659.76. Accumulated inventory, $13,949. So this year, I actually came out ahead $3,600. I worked hundreds of hours to come out ahead by $3,000, but I have a little explanation for that. This year, I came out ahead by a whopping $3,659.76. The reason inventory went down and I achieved a small profit is because I liquidated much of the stock I had to pay bills and fund the renovations of my house. Throughout this year, I was working at the warehouse and lived off that income while continuing to grow Alexandria Customs online. The only way I could afford the expenses of all the house renovations was literally by taking out multiple balance transfer offers on credit cards to gain access to capital while avoiding the interest charges of a traditional loan. I'd max out a credit card and then transfer the balance to another card with a promotional interest rate offer, usually between 0 and 3% for a period of time, then get another credit card with a similar offer to transfer the balance yet again until the promotional interest rate period ended. 2023, I quit my job, sold my house, and opened the brick and mortar store in August of this year. Business revenue, $141,894.36. Business expenses, $213,325.61. Net business income, $71,431.25 lost. I lost $71,000 in the first year. Accumulated inventory, approximately $30,000 to $40,000. This was the year I took the plunge. Never have I worked so hard in my life just to lose $71,000. This was money invested, however. All of the expenses of opening the store, purchasing the necessary equipment, and amassing inventory like never before. I don't have an exact read on the inventory at this time, as we were still transitioning into a new inventory tracking system. However, I estimate by year's end, I had approximately $30,000 to $40,000 worth of inventory for the store. For the record, I was promptly reviewed by Canada's tax agency, after reporting such a significant loss out of nowhere. Everything turned out okay when I explained that such a huge deficit was possible only because I sold my primary residence, my house, for a profit, which is how I had access to all that capital to make the investment in the business. 2024, the first full year at the store. Business revenue, $501,813.56. $500,000. We just hit $500,000. That's crazy. Business expenses, $440,182.56. Net business income, $61,631.51. Accumulated inventory, approximately $71,773.79. All I can say is 2024 was incredibly validating and rewarding to finally see years of effort paying off. After spending the majority of my savings on the business, this year was make or break for me. I managed to not only grow the business exponentially, but pull some money out for personal expenses and to finally start paying myself for these thousands of hours of sacrifice. As you can tell by the expenses, the overwhelming majority of the revenue was reinvested into the business to grow the inventory, purchase more equipment, and bring on more staff. For those curious, the overwhelming majority of our sales consist of a healthy mix of pre-built and custom request PCs, as well as labor charges for tech support service and other device repairs like phones and tablets. This is definitely the core of our business. This is supplemented by part sales, cell phone sales, tablet sales, and computer accessory sales. I'll also share a complete breakdown of operating expenses in 2025. Parts and equipment, this was the biggest expense, $329,676.65. This consists mostly of computer parts, replacement parts for the laptop and cell phone repairs, and computer accessories such as keyboards, mice, monitors, etc. Vehicle expenses, $2,318.28. Marketing expenses, $9,575.82. This consists mostly of Facebook ads as well as some local marketing opportunities. Insurance, $2,289.21. Store security system, $750. Business internet and phone, $1,561.73. Business cell phone, $1,080. Uniforms and printed promotional material from Vistaprint, $3,481.15. Borrowing fees, $1,040. Shopify fees, that's the website and payment processing, $8,191.06. Employee-related expenses, primarily wages, $47,009.79. These expenses will grow dramatically this year as we've doubled our staff. Commercial lease, $30,000 for the year. Other expenses not belonging to any specific category, $1,982.86. Finally, let's discuss how things are going so far this year. 2025 year to date as of June 4th. Business revenue, $319,000. Business expenses, unknown. Net business income, unknown. We calculate that at the end of the year. And so far this year, we've accumulated $102,751.92 worth of inventory. We now have over $100,000 worth of inventory. That's cost basis. So far, the sales for 2025 are just about double what we achieved in 2024 year to date. Expenses and net income are unknown as I calculate that at year's end. We've also accumulated over $100,000 of inventory, which feels good to see it continue to grow. Our goal as a store is to surpass $750,000 in revenue this year. And to continue this rate of growth ongoing for as long as possible, all I can say is I'm thrilled to see that everything is working and I've unlocked that exponential growth curve. Our biggest challenge will be moving the store this month, which involves many upfront expenses. Luckily, I'll have the opportunity to own the new store location, which will pay off in the long run. I suspect this will cause a significant reduction in net income for 2025, but will pay off massively going into 2026. Part 3, the emotional roller coaster of owning a business. For the record, I'm just a guy. I have no mentor, no business degree, no rich uncle to fund me or connect me with the right person. I just have the balls to try and the brains to pull it off so far. All of my business knowledge I've sourced from firsthand experience.
as well as consuming thousands upon thousands of hours of business material online, primarily podcasts and audiobooks. Huge shout out to Alex Hermosi. Overall, it's been a roller coaster to say the least, but I definitely want to stay on this ride. Let me be real with you and start with all the downsides. I'd like to say there's been a lot of bad days that have contributed to great years. Probably the biggest challenge in owning the business is the fact that it all ultimately falls on your shoulders. If something goes wrong, a customer gets upset, you have a bad sales month, you're the one who's ultimately responsible. You can't shake the feeling of angst even after you clock out. Your mind is constantly on even after store closing or during weekends. The problems matter in a way that they never could as an employee. And not only do you have to carry the burden of business operation, you have employees dependent on you to pay them monthly with money that they depend on. And you have to provide for yourself and your family with no guarantees of success unless you continually perform. If you don't get a good sleep, show up with a good mentality and discipline each day, then at best the business will stagnate and at worst it will fail. It's a big ship and you're constantly steering it not only towards the promised land, but away from hurricanes and icebergs. You're the captain and everyone depending on you is on board. I've had to sacrifice hobbies, time with friends and family, sleep, time at the gym, and my own health. It's a lifestyle most people would go insane from. And maybe I'm insane, but I look back at the growth over the past few years and cling on to that hope that it's going to pay off and I can eventually build it into something more sustainable with the help of staff and increased revenue. Probably one of the worst things about it is the fact that from the outside looking in, things look like they're going great for you and people can't help but think, must be nice. But funnily enough, I often find myself looking at people with more ordinary lives and think, must be nice, as they're able to take time off, forget about work, and live without all the stresses of growing a new business. The grass is always greener, as they say. However, it's a lonely path. Most people have the option of grabbing drinks with friends and coworkers to vent about the stresses of their job. But when you're running a business, it's hard to find people who are in the same boat and can relate to your struggles. This is especially true for younger entrepreneurs in their 20s and early 30s. Most other business people you could connect with are aged 40 plus, and you're sort of stuck in a limbo where you aren't on the same page as your peers your age, but you're also an outsider from the whole business world, from people who have shared experiences like yours. I guess this is just the price required to try and build an exceptional life. You're an exception yourself. But I'll leave it at this. There's no greater feeling than getting your shit together and actually pulling it off in the end. Nothing worth doing in life ever comes easy. Now let's talk about all the positives of embarking on a journey like this. My favorite way to put it into words is this: no matter how hard it is, at least I can go and take a shit anytime I like. Nobody can tell me no. Nobody can tell me where I have to be and when. I have full autonomy over each and every day of my life, and although I'm still bound by the responsibilities of it all, I pick and choose how and what I take on, whatever challenges I face throughout the day. To be able to call the shots in your own life and see it paying off over time is the greatest satisfaction. So far, I could have earned so much more and lived such a more comfortable and balanced life by applying similar effort in a more traditional path of employment. However, I believe right now, as I'm making this video, I'm at that tipping point where the exponential growth curve of the business starts to take off, and soon I'll be able to earn a living that far exceeds anything I could ever accomplish working for somebody else. To get there, I've had to have faith for 5 years that reinvesting everything and delaying gratification would pay off. And I still don't know for certain it will. World War III could start tomorrow through no fault of my own, and my business could go under. However, I can say with full confidence that I'm going to get there if it's at all within my power to do so. And I'm so proud of myself for that, a satisfaction that I couldn't find anywhere else. Most importantly, having a vision of your own and watching it come to fruition is incredible. You can have all these ideas in your head about branding, building a sick-ass PC, building a store you would want to shop at, and then bringing it to life and getting to share that vision in the real world with real people. It's an absolutely incredible thing. I like to think back to being my 15-year-old self and wonder how he would think of my job now, owning a sick custom PC store and being around the sea of parts and computers. It would literally be a dream come true for him. And after thinking about it like that, I realize it's a dream come true for me too. Hell yes. Part 4, where I want to take it. I often say I'm on year 5 of a 10-year journey. I always understood that big things can't be built overnight. I remember having visions of green LEDs everywhere, the sickest custom computers in cases that people have never seen before. I want walking into Alexandria Customs to be an experience for gamers and computer nerds like me that the world has never seen before. To fully realize this, I think we're going to have to get to the point where we're literally designing and manufacturing our own cases to finally peak out our level of customization. Starting out with nothing, it seems impossible to get there. However, if you chunk it year by year, month by month, day by day, and step by step, suddenly you can convince yourself that you're actually on that path. I think I can say I'm still on that trajectory, and there's only one way to find out for sure. To quantify it, our store goal is to surpass $750,000 in revenue this year and to exceed $1 million in sales in 2026. So far, we're on course. As far as other goals I have for the business, a big one is finding more work-life balance. As successful as it's been, my life has only gotten harder and more stressful as a result. Now that I have a great team working with me, I will spend the next few years setting them up to take on more and more responsibilities so that they can take some of the weight off of my shoulders. My hope is that they can become a larger part of Alexandria Customs so that I can find more work-life balance and that I can reward them fairly in exchange for that. That's going to require our whole team to continue to grow and see this journey through. I like to think in terms of from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, what am I doing and how do I feel? I want to get the business to the point where I don't have to think about money anymore because we've built enough revenue and savings where my employees are invested, competent, motivated, and compensated enough where I can trust them with most of the day-to-day operations of the business, and I can spend the majority of my waking day building computers of my wildest dreams and sharing them with the world. Without the constraints of time, without financial pressures to just let my creativity flow. Because that's the whole point at the end of the day, building sick-ass custom PCs, and I'm making no exaggeration when I say I want to build the sickest PCs known to mankind and share them with the world. I guess time will tell if I eventually get there. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, guys. I know this is a different kind of video from what I would normally put out, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who could enjoy to see a more transparent take on opening a store like this. There's plenty of informational content out there, but I really wanted to focus on the more human aspect of it all. If you take one thing away from this video, I hope it can be this. Whatever it is you think you can accomplish, you're probably right. If you're a PC builder or dream of opening a PC store someday, I'm thinking of doing another video soon sharing all my best tips and tricks for success specific to building a PC business that I've learned over the past few years. There's a lot more to it than just understanding the specs. Please comment down below and let me know if this is something you'd like me to share with you, and I'd be more than happy to do so. Lastly, if there's anything else you want to ask me, or if I can be of help in any way on your entrepreneurial journey, please feel free to leave a comment below or shoot me a message on one of our social media platforms, and I'll try my very best to help you out. That's all. Cheers, guys.